Well, hello. Today we're going to show you how to replace RJ45 connectors and VGA connector on the TNP121 and also TNP121C. This unit has cables cut just for convenience, but in your case you will actually have the cables coming out of here. So let's go ahead and start by removing some tie wraps. Right here you have cables that are held by tie wraps, and when you reassemble it you need to attach that tie wrap in the same place. So I'm going to cut it and remove the tie wrap. So now that will loose the cables inside. The next thing we need to do is to remove the strain relief, and you just turn it and it will slide down on the cable. Alright, but you want to slide it completely out so the cable moves freely. Now notice there's ground wires here. These are UL required grounds, and you should not be touching those grounds. You will lift the metal piece without doing any damage to these wires. The next thing we're going to do is to remove these two screws. And the second screw. Okay. And we're going to push the unit and open it up, because now it needs to be open to remove the rest of it. We have one screw here right next to the ground wire that we're going to need to remove in a second. Okay, the next thing we need to do, we need to remove this nut right here. Now notice there's a wire coming here. So it's very difficult to put a hex nut driver here. So you're going to have to use pliers to slowly remove it. So I'm just going to move it a little bit. And you can see once you make a couple of turns, it loosens up and then it comes off. Okay. Once you're done, just kind of lift it up and you're done. So this will loosen the whole metal assembly here, and now your job is to slide it up a little bit, just like this. Because what you're trying to do is to get closer to these connectors. So right here on the inside, there's two screws, one here, as you can see on this side, and there's one side that's difficult to see, but it's on the inside. We're going to remove these screws in order to remove the panel that holds the connectors. So that's the first screw, and the same thing on this side, which we're removing this screw right here. Once the second screw is removed, the whole panel comes out. So now you can go ahead and replace the connectors. You can see that if you need to remove the connector, there's a couple of ways to do it, but you can actually use the screwdriver with the Phillips end or regular end and just push on the side and push the connector out, and you see how it just snaps out. Okay, and you can insert a new connector, and the same thing here. So now when they're removed, you can go ahead and put a new connector in. Now you can put a second connector in. Once the second connector is in place, you're ready to insert it into the unit. Now we also have a VGA connector here and audio connector. To remove VGA connector, you're going to need to have a different nut driver, and just going to remove the connections here. And pull the cable out. Now you have a space available if you want to put HDMI connector in here, or we can provide you a blank panel that covers everything. Alright. So now we're going to go in the opposite direction and try to assemble everything back together. So first I'm going to put the VGA connector and put back the hex nut that's holding it. Then we're going to insert this metal plate. And I recommend that you have a screwdriver that has a little magnetic end. It makes it a little bit easier to put the screws in. Alright, and we'll push the cable right through here. On this end, and then we need to put one on the inside. Okay, this is secured, and this is secured. And you can check on the front, make sure that the connectors are aligned. Now we're going to put the plate back, and that's a plate that protects high voltage. Going to push it in. I would secure the screws on the top first, and then I would put the knot on the back. Okay, don't make it too tight, just insert it so it holds it, because you're going to need to move this panel for the knot to be inserted properly. Because here, once you put the knot, you need to push it inside. You can see you have to push it inside to secure it, okay? So let's go ahead and put the knot on top. And then push everything inside and secure the knot in place. Once the knot is secured in place, you can go ahead and tighten those screws. One and two. And now you can verify if it latches in place, and you can see that it latches. If for some reason when you put it together it doesn't latch properly, then you would loosen these two screws and adjust the latch. It can go a little bit higher or a little bit lower. All right? Once you bring the cables out, make sure to tie wrap them to this. There's 3 holes here designed specifically for tie wrapping, right here. 1, 2, 3. And make sure that all the wires are away from the spring, so it doesn't interfere with the spring position. So it doesn't interfere with the movement of the unit. And then finally, you're going to bring the strain relief for the cable here, and you're going to tie it down. And once you tie it down, you're done. And that's how you replace connectors on TNP121.